So Bob Iger destroys Kathleen Kennedy and the crumbling Star Wars brand after an insane meltdown that Lucasfilm didn't see coming. So Bob Iger has shut down another Star Wars project, according to Geeks and Gamers and American Press, that could have changed everything for the franchise. It was called The Hunt for Ben Solo. And even though Kathleen Kennedy supported it, Geeks and Gamers, who recently joined forces with that Park Place, shout out to all of them, has reported that Bob Iger wasn't interested. Okay, so the idea was to bring back Kylo Ren after the Rise of Skywalker, but Bob Iger decided it didn't make sense, and we all agree for once. But it shows how divided Star Wars leadership and Disney has become under Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy, and now, and how little faith anyone still has in that Star Wars, what Star Wars turned into. So Adam Driver has worked for 2 years on the idea with Steven Soderbergh and Rebecca Blunt, and these weren't, just nobodies and stuff. These were talented people who could have brought something to Star Wars. Some would say that might have, just been actually interesting. Okay, so they wanted to show Ben Solo after re-announcing the dark side, dealing with his past and rebuilding himself. I mean, that's not really a bad promise, even if it's coming from the wreckage of Disney's Star Wars sequel mess. But when Bob Iger and studio chairman Alan Bergman looked at it, well, they completely shut it down. You see, Kathleen Kennedy and the Lucasfilm team liked it, of course, but Bob Iger didn't see the logic in bringing back a dead man. I mean, maybe for once, he was right. You see, you've got to remember that Ben Solo died in The Rise of Skywalker at the end of it, and there's no ambiguity there. You see, he gave up his life so that way Rey could live, and Star Wars under Kathleen Kennedy doesn't really care about death anymore, apparently. But it's all just a suggestion. Darth Maul gets sliced in half, brought back. I mean, Palpatine gets thrown down a reactor, brought back. Kathleen Kennedy just approved it all willy-nilly for Star Wars. And now there's talk of Ben Solo surviving. Okay, that's the same particular nonsense that we've been seeing for years. No stakes, no consequences, and just people wonder why no one takes this franchise seriously anymore under Bob Iger's leadership with Lucasfilm under Kathleen Kennedy. And it's all because it's all meaningless storytelling built on nostalgia bait and broken canon. Okay, because simply put, if that's the case, they might as well just go ahead and bring back Yoda and even Obi-Wan Kenobi, even Qui-Gon Jinn and Anakin Skywalker. But the saddest part is that the fans were just, actually mad at Bob Iger for turning this one down. That right there is sad too. They're melting down on social media, and like he robbed them of some masterpiece. And these are the same people who forget that the sequel trilogy destroyed Star Wars credibility with the audience. You see, they're still stuck, still stuck chasing scraps from what's left of that disaster. Meanwhile, KK just keeps trying to bring the past back instead of just letting the story move forward. Now, the desperation to relive the past is exactly what's killing modern Star Wars, okay? And that's what Iger has allowed her to do since he put her in charge in the first place, okay? So either way, it's his fault. But when you look at what Adam Driver described, the whole thing kind of sounds like, an attempt to go ahead and fix what Kathleen Kennedy and her activist writers broke. You see, it was supposed to show that Ben Solo somehow survived and lived on after the chaos of Rise of Skywalker. You see, they even had a full treatment written and ready for Lucasfilm's approval. You see, Kathleen Kennedy just gave it a green light internally. She liked it because, well, it just gave her a chance to go ahead and extend the sequel legacy, to milk that brand one more time, okay? But when it hits Iger's desk, I mean, he said no. I mean, maybe he realized that, bringing back another dead Skywalker was just, basically the kind of stunt that made fans walk away in the first place. All right. Now, even if you ignore the story problems, you can still see what Bob Iger was thinking. And for once, but Disney doesn't want to spend hundreds of millions on a sequel to go ahead into one of the most divisive films in modern history. The Rise of Skywalker made decent box office numbers, but it still left a crater in fan trust. It showed everyone that Star Wars under Kathleen Kennedy had no direction at all. Okay. Now, there was no plan, no arc, just patchwork of bad ideas that just turned one of pop culture's greatest stories into corporate woke content. And now you've got Adam Driver trying to resurrect it with Soderbergh like it's, some lost redemption story. And Bob Iger probably thought, not worth the money at all. For once, if that's the case, he's right about something. But the same Bob Iger, ironically, who let KK run wild with The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, is now the one being called the villain for stopping her latest project. Bob Iger is also the same executive who destroyed the expanded universe, okay? The same one that had Ben Skywalker, Luke's real son, written well and respected in the old canon, but now he's suddenly being blamed for not letting, Disney's Star Wars go off on another resurrection fantasy. Okay, so that's where the franchise is right now, where fans are mad that their bad storytelling didn't get worse. Okay. And then there's also people still saying that Kylo Ren was the best part of the sequels, as if that means much. You see, he's the least bad character in the Broken Trilogy, which is not a compliment at all. But the truth is, KK and her activist team had no idea what they wanted to do with him. One movie, he's a Vader wannabe. The next, he's crying about his feelings and stuff. And then suddenly he's redeemed, apparently. Okay. So that right there with zero buildup, by the way, that's not a character arc right there. That's just a cycle for content. And Iger kept approving these projects while acting like, he was curating prestige cinema. And he turned Star Wars into a corporate test kitchen where nothing has consequences. You see, people say that Adam Driver's performance was compelling, and sure, he's a good actor, but a good performance cannot fix bad writing. Now, the reason fans imagine what could have been with Kylo Ren is because they know that they didn't get anything real from Kennedy's version of the story. I mean, that's the same pattern across the board, where everyone keeps simply rewriting the sequels in their heads because Star Wars used to have depth, and now, well, it's just, a nostalgia machine. Iger is out there just pretending that like this brand can still be revived with merchandise and theme parks, but you can't buy back trust once that particular trust is gone. Now, every time Kathleen Kennedy signs off on another project, it's about trying to reanimate something that should have stayed burned or buried. We saw it with Palpatine, we saw it with Luke's ghost cameos, and now they wanted to do it again with Ben Solo. I mean, it's this obsession with undoing death that drains all meaning from Star Wars. I mean, nothing ever matters. No lost sticks. No lost sticks. But Bob Iger claims to be about storytelling excellence, but he's the reason that nobody ever really dies has become the new franchise slogan. Okay, it's the creative brain rot that set in when the suits took over of the soul of the series. Okay. Now, the funny part is how fans are reacting right now. They're blaming Bob Iger like he's the one who personally killed their favorite hero, okay? But Bob Iger and Disney forget that Kathleen Kennedy's entire run has been about undermining heroes. She humiliated Luke, sidelined Han, erased legacy characters, and tried to replace them with forgettable ones. Star Wars fans wouldn't be begging for a Ben Solo movie if the sequels hadn't failed so hard. I mean, this desperation for scraps is just a symptom of how badly Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger both mishandled the whole franchise. I mean, let's be honest, you can't fix something that's been gutted from the inside, okay? But it's also easy to say, Kylo Ren had potential and da 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 da. But potential means nothing when you've got no plan, okay? So simply put, that's what happens with Star Wars under Disney. Just a bunch of what ifs that can never go anywhere. Every time they pitch something, Iger pretends it's a return to form. Then it collapses under its own contradiction. The people still defending this brand are the ones who think that loyalty will somehow make the content good again. But let's be real here. When the heart's gone, you can't fake it. And that's the legacy both Iger and Kennedy have left behind. A franchise full of fake emotion and real exhaustion. Now, when the hunt for Ben Solo was pitched back in 2021, it was right after the Rise of Skywalker actually blew up in their faces. No one in their right mind should have been trying to make another sequel, okay? They should have just taken at least a decade off to rebuild Star Wars from the ground up, okay? But when under Iger, everything's about, filling the release calendar. That's why you're getting Ahsoka, The Mandalorian Grogu, The Acolyte, and even half a dozen spinoffs that nobody asked for. Now, Kennedy honestly just keeps pushing them out, and Iger just, keeps pretending like he's reestablishing the brand itself. I mean, it's corporate insanity at this point, okay? But the real issue here is that neither of them understands what made Star Wars special. It wasn't nostalgia and it wasn't content. It was heart, sacrifice, myth, and consequences. The things that Kennedy doesn't know how to write and Iger doesn't know how to protect. When death doesn't matter and redemption is just a checkbox, the entire story just collapses. I mean, that's what happened here. You see, they wanted to go ahead and make another sequel about a dead man because the creative team has nothing left to say. I mean, that's what you get when you drain the meaning out of a cultural legacy and replace it with focus groups, okay? So definitely Bob Iger might have stopped the hunt for Ben Solo, but he's the same one who let Kathleen Kennedy run wild for a decade. Now, this franchise's decay didn't start yesterday. It's been a slow burn ever since Disney bought it. Each new project under Kathleen Kennedy just gets more desperate and reaching. And each new statement from Bob Iger just simply gets more delusional. Okay, rebuilding the brand and stuff that they've turned into one of the greatest stories ever into something people tolerate out of habit. Okay, so that right there is not magic. That's just simply brand fatigue. Now, when you see Adam Driver's comments and stuff, you can tell that, he was genuinely proud of what they developed. And maybe in another universe, the hunt for Ben Solo could have just worked, and not as a sequel, but as a character-driven side story. But under Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy, it would have just been doomed anyway. Now, the second corporate notes came in, it would have turned into another soulless reboot full of callbacks. Fans are right to be angry, but they're angry at the wrong thing. They should be angry that Star Wars got to this point at all right? But at the end of the day, let's be honest. This isn't, about one movie being canceled. It's just about the creative collapse of an entire franchise under Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy. Now, the hunt for Ben Solo movie never stood a chance because, well, people running this brand don't know what a good story looks like anymore, okay? So every project that Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger both touch either gets overproduced or underwritten. Every decision is about optics at this point, not art. And that's why Star Wars is where it is, a ghost of what it used to be. And no amount of new pitches will change that until real leadership returns. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Be sure to smash the like button, share the video far wide across social media. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for future uploads, notifications, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, peace.